Sometimes in life, we find ourselves going through periods of change, periods of transition, periods of transformation, and therefore periods of uncertainty. And so, welcome to this episode where we're going to actually talk about some tips or potential steps to take as we navigate through uncertainty. This can be on our own personal experience that, or in our own personal experience that we're experiencing that. And it can also be happening on the planet, in the planet on the world stage, which right now, in the times we're in, we're definitely in a big paradigm shift. And therefore, we're in a really massive time of transition and transformation. So that means that on some level, we are definitely experiencing ways or places or experiences or things that we don't have control over. We may not see what's next, know what's next, know even for ourselves, what do we want, and trying to figure that out. So it can be really actually daunting. And for most, it is extremely uncomfortable. The key, interestingly, to really being in our leadership and in our sovereignty, leadership of our own, being our own authority, and I mean our own authority to our soul self, really being able to honor our own authenticity and express that and be able to really honor our own inner resonance from our soul self. We actually do all need to learn how to get comfortable with uncertainty, with being uncomfortable. And so, how do we do that? So, let's explore that. First and foremost, our invitation is to acknowledge that we don't actually know. Maybe we don't know what's next. Maybe we don't know how it's going to play out. And, it's just that acknowledgement and acknowledging how we feel about it. How do we feel about it? Do we feel fearful? Do we feel angry? Do we feel perplexed or confused? Do we feel ungrounded? And if possible, once we've acknowledged how we feel and acknowledged potentially that we don't know, then process those emotions, move those emotions, feel to heal those emotions. The next opportunity or tip for us or step for us is to then, can we see this as, an opening to be curious, be open to change, be open to being adaptable and flexible? Can we be curious to see, I don't know what's next, but maybe it's something really amazing and really exciting. And the key for us to keep in mind is that we're creating as we go. Present moment and regulation are going to be the two main themes that we want to stay focused on during this time of uncertainty, or when we're personally navigating uncertainty. So being in the present moment means that we can really truly create what we want to experience next. So it's said that if we take care of our present moment, our future takes care of us, because our present moment is our only true moment of power. So when we're in the present moment and we can get into alignment, such as alignment to peace, alignment to love, or alignment to kindness, or to compassion, to success or creativity, that's when we then start to create that for ourselves. In our future, we're creating whatever we've been, experiencing from our previous state. The challenge with that is oftentimes we keep recycling the past because our ego self cannot foresee what it has not experienced. So we go to where we feel limited or capped at a place where we feel, I can't really foresee what's next, or I don't have control in this situation. Therefore, we oftentimes will thread back or root back to something we've experienced before because we have that reference point. So being in the present moment and continuously trying to bring ourselves back into the present moment consciously, and then coming back into that alignment, is truly, truly empowering. And empowerment is actually one of the tips and one of the steps for us. So being empowered means, what can I do to support myself? How can I stay connected to myself, to others, to nature? How can I really stay balanced, and how can I stay grounded through this, kind of time? What is my rudder? What do I want my rudder to be? So rudder could be, I always like to use the analogy of a sailboat. So imagine we're on an ocean and we have a really windy day, or we have a foggy day. We don't have full control over the environment, the climate, or the weather. So our rudder would be, I'm putting this rudder in, and then I'll be able to navigate to a degree while there's other things going on around me that I have no control over. So my rudder might be, I want to go through this, navigate through this experience, through this passage, or through this journey with peacefulness or with being grounded, or I want my rudder to be balance. Maybe I want my rudder to be clarity. So when we have a clear picture of what we want our rudder to be, then that also really helps us to stay steady and centered through the experience. Because one of the key challenges with navigating through uncertainty is we don't have control, and or we can't see. And so that's actually, though, one of the beautiful gifts and opportunities of navigating uncertainty. Uncertainty offers this beautiful opportunity to become connected deeper to the unknown and to get comfortable with the unknown. And that's part of really what we need to kind of really step into in our leadership, is being comfortable with the unknown, and maybe even being comfortable with the unseen. So when we come into the grace of that surrender, that's when we start to really tap into deeper elements of life, deeper elements of ourself. And that's where we start to really, most importantly, are able to become very deeply connected to our soul, to the divine intelligence, kind of like a dance with the divine. We start to really kind of know, where's our ego been running the show. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a way of, sometimes it's really difficult for us to discern when we're productive, or when we're in action, and when we're doing things, and when we want to do that. That's part of our journey here in this earth school. Sometimes, though, we can take over in a way that we don't even know anymore, and it's kind of our personalities taking over, and we're disconnected from our inner connection, our inner self, our inner source, our soul self. And that's when we can start to create things that ultimately don't end up bringing the highest good or the highest fulfillment for ourselves, or for others, for the whole collective, or for other beings. The grace of surrender is one of the most beautiful opportunities navigating through, or going through, a period or a time of transition, or a time of change. The thing to keep in mind for us, though, is that the ego's definition of surrender is very different than the soul's definition of surrender. And that's also something, it's an opportunity for us to actually shift our consciousness around the definition we may have on surrender. So ego's definition of surrender, for example, is if we're surrendering, we're in defeat, we are in victim consciousness, we are in helplessness, hopelessness consciousness. We've given up, we've acquiesced, we've appeased, or we've lost our power. That is the definition of ego. Where the definition of soul, which is truly the grace of surrender consciousness, definition of soul to surrender is one of unifying, devoting, or connecting, merging. So when we come into the approach to surrender with that sense of, I'm merging to my soul, I'm merging to an energy that's bigger than me, that I might not fully understand, but I can definitely learn how to have a relationship with it, and in a way that is actually very palpable, very, in a sense, tangible, because you can feel, when we nurture and foster our relationship with our soul self, or with spirit, even like, think about the divine intelligence of nature, the energy of nature, and the synergy of nature. There's an energy that's there that we can actually develop a connection with, and we can develop a relationship with that. So that's where surrender is. We're connecting to that energy, or we're connecting to that force. And in that, we become courageously aligned with the flow of life. That's the consciousness of soul. And that's when we truly can come into this divine dance with the divine, which allows us then to be relaxed in the present moment. And we know kind of where our line in it is. Our line is all I can do, which is again the most powerful thing we can do, is we stay in the present moment in that alignment. And that's how, and we let go of anything else that we don't have control over or say over at the time. So, but we have this new developed sense of faith or new developed sense of trust. It's not hollow, it's not blind, it's not just a conditioned faith or a conditioned trust. We know what we're putting our faith and our trust in because we can feel it, because we have a connection with it. This interestingly also, it's kind of like, the paradox. I have to surrender, and so there can be this feeling I'm relinquishing control in order to actually feel more in control. And so again, when we know though that we're connecting to something that is powerful and that is real and it has our highest good out for us, it has our back, it wants what is best for us, we can then relax to it. We're not surrendering to another person. We're not surrendering to anything that has its own potential motive or agenda. So we stay empowered in that process. And the beautiful gift of this is that when we can do that, we actually end up having, deeper meaning, deeper connections in our relationships, because this truly is the foundation or the seat of deeper intimacy when we have that ability to surrender in that way from that consciousness. So we stay empowered, we stay purposeful, and we stay very, very centered and very grounded in it. So that helps us to just really, again, be able to be open and curious about what's next. And most importantly, one of the other steps is to remember there is a bigger picture playing out. Sometimes we cannot see the bigger picture. Sometimes we don't know. There's so much choreography behind the scenes often happening. No matter how intuitive we are, whatever our abilities are, we still cannot see in this kind of incarnated experience. We still cannot see the 360-degree view normally. Mostly we can't. Most people can't, I should say. So that means that we can't always see, and we're not meant to always see. There's too many facets to this choreography that's playing out, and there's too many kind of facets within each of us that are meant to play out. And all we really need to do is to, and are responsible to do, is to stay focused on what is our own blueprint and what's our own soul map and what's our own, really inner resonance guiding us to do. And again, if we're connected to that deeper source, we will be operating in our own highest path and purpose, which again brings us to incredible fulfillment and purpose. And it also will be contributing to the higher good of all beings and to the planet. So this helps us to stay regulated. It helps us to stay in the present moment. And it does so while we're kind of in this both and, I'm both in this in between, or I'm in this place of transformation. I'm going from one state to another. I'm going from one place to another. I don't know what that's going to be, but I can have fun creating it, and I can have fun allowing myself experimenting or just playing with being in this flow, observing and when needed, keep coming back into course correction, back into our own personal heart and our own personal alignment, into our own personal sense of center. What's my rudder that I want to navigate through this? And yes, there's a little bit of a humility that we need to kind of show up with, and a courage to have that alignment, releasing and being in alignment to the flow, and a humility, just a humility that I don't have to know everything, and I can't know everything. There's just so much, it's so massive. The choreography is truly so massive and complicated. So it means that I know kind of my place in the bigger picture of the universe or of the world. And at the same time, I also don't minimize my worth and my impact by being conscious in the present moment and in alignment. And that is extremely, extremely beautiful for us, and really a guide and a path, if this resonates, to bring us into more peace, more compassion, and more heart centeredness. So, wishing you a very gentle and easy path if you're feeling a lot of this uncertainty and, kind of feeling the heat of it. Final thing, just to kind of mention, that's coming through, is that we, again, part of the empowerment is we may need to set up some tools and techniques to support ourselves or ask for support during these times. It can bring up a lot of things. It can bring up a lot of fear. It can bring up a lot of anxiety. So not being afraid to ask and reach out for support or reach out for help. And always know that we're always putting our faith in something, whether we're conscious or not of it. So do we want to put our faith in fear, or do we want to put our faith in love? And it doesn't mean we won't feel fear. We're going to feel fear. It means that we have a choice of what we want to do with that. We can choose to, keep giving energy to the fear, or we can keep choosing love and choosing to keep, when we can, coming back into the alignment of love. We're supporting ourselves to come back into love, or to stay in love, to stay in love consciousness and be in love consciousness. And that's, it's our choice. Where do we want our faith to go? So wishing you a very beautiful and gentle passage. Namaste.